Hey, he's going for his gun. He's going to draw down on
no.
me. It's Sheriff Eric Apperson walking through the door.
No.
Ah, there it is. He brings his own applause.
And his own name tag too.
Man, you just do not dress like a sheriff. You're not. What's this? You look like it's like
What? It says Sheriff Eric Apperson.
I know.
DNSO Sheriff. What else do you want?
It looks like he was captain of the sheriff team. I want a cowboy hat. I want to, the.
Do you want the stars in the back of the boots?
Yeah.
Is this on?
It's actually on. Yeah.
Is that 200 mile tape? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's how this. These are old Damnation Creek.
I'll try
mics,
not
man.
to adjust.
Do not adjust. If there's one thing a public official in Delaware County should never do, it's adjust.
Stop. I'm a guest here. I am a guest.
And a guest of honor. We've been
Thank
talking.
you. I read the very nice things you had to say.
Well, let's.
Attached to the very awkward picture. Felt like you needed to post.
I forgot that was there, but you ended up after like a year liking my comment, and it showed up in the feed yesterday.
So it's you.
And that just goes to it's always inappropriate to like any comments.
Don't
made
like
by
anything.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think your dad might have taken that picture. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where did you have your senior photos?
You
don't remember, do you?
No, it was
Wow.
my senior year in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't there a lot.
That was senior year?
That was senior year. That was.
Oh, wait, that's never mind. I thought
19
freshman. And you look like 45, so it was weird.
I always have.
Yeah.
I always have. Yeah, I'm waiting to catch up to that stigma. It'd be nice when I'm actually 45 if I looked 45. Sadly, I looked 45 when I was 16, which wasn't a good situation to be in.
No, yeah,
a lot of peer pressure comes with being the kid that can grow the beard in high school.
That's true. Yeah, they
Yeah.
call on you a lot.
They
don't
do.
They? Yeah.
Yeah. They.
Well, do you want a break? You just walked in the door. You want me to play a song? Should we just get talking?
What
you
I'm
want?
good. I am malleable. Whatever you would like to do, sir.
All right. Well, then let's talk.
Okay.
Angle your mic down a little bit. I'm getting.
I'm afraid to touch it. There's tape on it.
It's
Where
tape.
do you want
There
me
you go. That's perfect. Just like that.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we're joined by. Let me get rid of the background music. We were doing our report. That's it. We got a little funky background. Yeah.
We could take that show on the road. That's better than about half the stuff I hear on the radio right now.
Oh. How was KPOD yesterday?
It was good. They were
Yeah.
very kind. Of course, it was for St. Jude.
Mhm.
So I mean that's why we're there. And the struggle was listening to some of those tracks that are already hard to listen to, and then they put the sound bites in of the family struggling, going through that, and then the song's over, and they're like, "Okay, let's talk," and I'm trying to collect myself and gather myself, and I just heard this horrible story, and yeah, it was good. Got some people to call in, got some partners, and they were great. And I stopped by KCRE on the way out too.
There we go. We got a new.
We
board.
working?
Yeah, we are. It's all good.
I
just
don't
wanted
have
to-
a pop screen.
Yeah, I know.
And
We don't do
and
that.
I tend to a lot.
You do just now. You know,
Yeah.
Joan Miles pops all over the band. Just bam, bam, bam.
Bam.
And we have pop screens, but they're huge and you can't see anything. You have to wear them. They're like you go on your hat. So it's been a year as sheriff, right?
Little over a year.
Little over. Sum up this year for us. Tell us what it's like having been sheriff of Delaware County for one solid year plus.
Oh, boy. I don't know how to put that in a single response other than it's been the, arguably the best experience of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to equate it to really anything else. I guess I suppose what's new for me is a feeling that comes with being right where you should be.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm right where I should be. I want to be there. I enjoy being there. It's the best job I've ever had. I have a ton of support from my family all the way out into the public. And I don't know. I don't know that I've ever experienced that. And we're getting a lot of good things done. And I feel like I'm being successful. So I like being there. It's a good job to have. It's an important job. And I have almost more support than I know what to do with. So I feel very fortunate.
It's a freeing feeling to wake up in the
morning.
And
And I was having this conversation with my wife often,
Mm-hmm.
which is, man, I don't even set an alarm clock. I wake up and I go to work.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it's early
You have a
Sometimes
support
it's
clock?
on time, but it's never late. Like I sometimes I just wake up and I'm so excited to go to work. I just go.
That's crazy.
I don't even know what
Good.
time it is. You know, I've never experienced. I mean, the sun isn't up most of the time. I mean, I'm not saying I wake up at noon or something and I go in there, but you know, I know it's morning and I go in and I go to work and I get good things done. And you know, some days are hard. I mean, it's not always perfect, and I'm not. You know, I'm not the guy that has all the answers all the time, but I have so many resources that if I just slow the tempo down a little bit, there's plenty of people out there that, you know, are willing to get me those answers and be resourceful.
What is it you mean by slow the tempo down? What's that mean?
Well, you know, I don't want to pick on anybody, but sometimes, you know, and I would consider myself arrogant at some level. But I see people that, they're so interested in being the person that has a response to everything that they're not necessarily worried about the quality of the response. So, you know, if somebody comes into my office or somebody calls or somebody wants me to go somewhere and participate in something, and maybe it's critical, maybe it's urgent, maybe it's just, you know, they're at wit's end and they need somebody to come up with a resolution. I don't always try to blurt out the first thing I think. Number one, the first thing I think is often inappropriate. You know, I try to slow it down, control the tempo a little bit. If I need to research it somewhat, I do that. I call on folks and I get the best possible answer I can. And what I've learned over time is it brings more worth to your answers. I find more people ask me questions because they know I'm not the guy that has to have the answer. I'm the guy that has to get the answer. That's what's important to me. So in this job, you know, big shift from being the guy that's out there shagging calls and driving to everything that's in progress, you know, to now I'm more in a support role for the community and my staff. You know, it's my job to give these folks everything they need to do well and be successful. I get to control the tempo a little bit more. And I think it brings more value to my contribution.
That's interesting. What looking back over this last year, what are the things you're most proud of accomplishing?
Oh, boy. You know, I would probably say relationships and partnerships in the community, and second to that, transparency. So, and you know, and I mentioned both of those because they go hand in hand. I think, you know, a big part of my campaign was transparency. I want to bring the community back into the role of public safety. You know, there's been this sort of stigma that it's an us and them thing. Us and them meaning law enforcement and the public we're supposed to serve. There's some sort of division, you know, and it's really important to me that we take that away. Crime is not a cop problem. Crime is a community problem, and cops are a resource for crime, but they're no more valuable than any other resource, you know. Fundamentally, you try to have people police themselves so they really don't have to utilize the police or law enforcement as much. You know, talk to your neighbors if there's a problem. You know, live a little bit more neighborly if you live close to somebody. Develop partnerships with the community. It's incredible in a community this size how many people want to help. I mean, it is not hard. It's not hard to fundraise. It's not hard to get volunteers. It's not hard to have people show up to committee meetings. It's
Keep talking. Hold on just a second.
yeah. Well, you're making. I don't know what you're doing. Or you look like a mad scientist. You're pushing. Yeah.
There we go.
But so I think the things that I'm most proud of are that I've really backed up the idea that I want to form partnerships and work on things collectively. Because I've noticed that, you know, when I call, people answer and they're motivated to help. That's a good sign. I think the public perception of the sheriff's office is more positive than it has been in a long time. We're getting a lot of quality applicants. I mean, we've hired more people, or we're in the hiring process for more people right now than I think we have in years. And I think those are all good signs. You know, it's an interesting place. It's a young place, and it's somewhere people want to be. And we're out there. We're going to schools. We're not just bringing bad news. We're bringing good news. I mean, I'm here right now a little late into your show because I was hanging out with kindergartners that were touring the sheriff's office, you know. And I thought, here's an opportunity. Number one, that teacher called. Okay, I didn't solicit the teacher. The teacher called me and said, I have a group of kindergartners, and they are interested in coming to the sheriff's office. And I had never met this teacher before. It's not like, I knew her. Mm-hmm. And I said, I got to make that happen. So we set up a date. And then I thought, what can I do that's special? And so I knew that when I first came onto the job, giving an oath was a big deal, because it comes from somebody else that, usually you admire. I know the first time I really got sworn in, it was from Sheriff Moretti at the time. Mm-hmm. And I mean, at the time, I would tell you he was 10 foot tall, 350 pounds, had hands the size of my head. And I remember just standing there looking at this mountain of a man as he made me promise to be good. And I meant it. And when the promise was over, he slid this badge across the table that got pinned on me. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget any part about it. And so I'm thinking, these kids are coming, and I'm kind of that guy now, right? I mean, they're kindergarten, and I'm not tall, but compared to kindergartners, I'm pretty tall, And they came into the office, and I took them all around and showed them cars and impound and introduced them to people, let them walk through dispatch, which they loved. And I made this oath. And I told them.
You made up an oath?
I made an oath.
An oath especially for them.
Yep, I made it for them. And I made them understand what an oath was, that it's a promise. Mm-hmm. And it's a promise that you intend to keep. And it's a promise that you take voluntarily. It's not like your parents, they got the belt in one hand and they're saying, promise you're going to keep your room clean the rest of your life. And you're just, I promise, just stop. It's not, it's a kind of promise that you walk in on your own and you promise, like a wedding vow,
Yeah. It's an active decision.
Right. Yeah. So it's very empowering for people when they decide to do that, even our little people, Oh, wow. And so I made an oath. And I asked them if they wanted to be special deputies, and they were all over it, because it was at the end of the tour. They saw all the cool things, and they raised their little hands and they promised to repeat after me, and they went down it. And at the end, I put a little seal on it, and I signed my name, and I taught them how to just scribble a signature, and I put a date on it, and they left with their copy, and it's a promise forever. It says right on top of it.
Do you remember the oath? We'd love to hear the oath.
I do. I gave a rough draft to Mike actually to make copies for me. So I got.
Oh, right on.
I have it in its rough form here. So it says, Del Norte County Sheriff's Office Special Deputy Kids Oath. I pledge that I will follow the Del Norte County Sheriff's Office Special Deputy Kids Oath now and forever. And at that point, they're kind of like, whoa, this is a forever.
And ever.
That's like a week.
Yeah.
And a week is a long time. And it's simple. And the point behind this was this, you can do these things forever, and we should all do these things forever. Mm-hmm. So I promised to always be safe. I promised to always tell my parents where I'll be. I promised to be helpful and respectful. I promised to tell the truth. I will learn how and when to call 911. I will learn my address and my phone number. I will never talk to a stranger or go anywhere with them for any reason, including their home or car. I promise to let a trusted adult know when I see something that isn't safe, and I promise to be the best person I can be. And we talked about it, and they loved it, and they meant it, and they made the promise, and they held their hand up, and they meant it. And for the next 5 minutes of their life,
yeah. Or maybe there's one kid who will look back at this giant who administered this.
And they'll remember, when they grow like I did, and I think that's special. And they're going to take it home to their parents, and they're going to have a conversation with their parents about it. And maybe their parents will throw it in a scrapbook somewhere, and they'll look at it when they grow up. And maybe those kids, maybe one of them becomes a cop, or maybe none of them do, but they think about it and they take the principles just out of treating people nice and being fair, and
that sounds like a beautiful way to spend your morning too.
I got more out of it than the kids did.
You got a whole bunch of deputies, so it's
I do. Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But just being in the presence of young kids that there's no filter.
Yeah.
Every question is a statement.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And seeing them genuinely enjoy something.
Mm-hmm.
And even as we're talking about it right now, I know they're talking about it.
Yeah,
You know, they're back at school talking about it. They're going to tell
yeah.
their parents about it, and they're going to have a conversation at home, and it's going to be positive. And things like that, you know, are really what has made this job for me. And I don't know if being a better leader makes you a better parent, or being a better parent makes you a better leader.
Mm-hmm. How are the two connected? What sort of things do you take back and forth?
I mean, really, the philosophies are the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like a chicken or an egg sort of a thing. I don't know where I learn it and where I employ it, but I know that it happens at both parts of my life. You know, we love our kids. We want our kids to be successful. We want to empower them. We want them to be happy and treat people right and be team oriented and, you know, think globally and really be a part of the solution. And these are philosophies that you share at work. I mean, you want the same thing to happen. You know?
But sure. But what about the correlation between being a parent and running an organization like this? I mean, you were talking about earlier how you learned to sort of step back and think a couple, let a couple of beats pass before you spoke. Mm-hmm. Did you take that home?
Yeah, I don't know if I got it at home and took it to work, or if I got it, but I use it the same in both places. I don't talk to my kids like they're kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, I don't talk above or below anybody I encounter. I talk like me, and sometimes that's at level, sometimes it's below level. It just depends on my audience. But you know, my 5-year-old son Kingston he's 5.
Wow,
he'll be 6 in May actually.
Oh my gosh.
We have conversations.
Yeah.
Better conversations than I have with my peers sometimes, you know. Like yesterday I got home and he said, "Dad, how was work?" And he really wanted to know the answer. You know, I kind of shrugged him off. I said, "Oh, it was fine," you know. And he says, "No, Dad, how was work? Like, tell me something. Did you catch bad guys today? Did you hang out in your office? What'd you do?" You know? And I think there's an important lesson there. You don't, you know, if I walk through the halls through the sheriff's office and I see somebody that, you know, maybe in the hierarchy of things is considered a subordinate, it doesn't mean you talk down to anybody. Mm-mm. You know, your goal, and I was having this conversation recently, and I guess this is the correlation. I have one goal as a parent. I have one most valued goal as a parent, and that is that I want to prepare my children for life without me. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, that's really what we're doing. You want them to like you, and you want to be cool, and you want, you know, to not, you know, put them in a bad situation or get them hurt or be reckless. You want to make sure they have food. You want to do all this stuff. But ultimately, as parents, you want to prepare them for a life without you. You want to know that if something tragic happens to you today and you don't get to go home and you don't get to see your family anymore, that they can move on and do well without you and have a good quality of life and make good choices and be in a good situation. Mm-hmm. That's your goal as a parent. Is that not your goal for your staff at an organization? If you can't come back tomorrow,
mm-hmm. Will it continue? Will it
continue with that mission statement, with that philosophy, with that growth, with that people doing well? Can they assume your responsibilities, and can they navigate through those challenges? And I think, you know, the word you used, I think the correlation is strikingly similar mm-hmm. to a family and an organization if you want them to be successful.
That's interesting. And that's also, there's another correlation, and then that's sort of in history. A lot of the organizations, the bureaucracies, the big things, the empires that fail to institutionalize, you know, if something that starts with, you know, Alexander the Great, he didn't institutionalize his bureaucry, and so when he died, it broke up, and everybody took what they could, you know.
And that's really the two styles of leadership. Mm-hmm. There's the you have to have me to mm-hmm. survive, mm-hmm. or the I'm doing everything I can so you can survive without me. Mm-hmm. And the one over here where you have to have the person to survive, that's all about that person. Mm-hmm. That's all about, you know, me, I. The one over here is all about the philosophy and the mission. Mm-hmm. You know, I kind of have a sort of my own adage where I have to make a lot of decisions, obviously, and a lot of decisions come across my desk that range from, real basic, easy to make decisions to very complicated decisions that are going to be quarterbacked for the rest of time. And I've found one equation that I plug them all into that really is a guiding light for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's three things, and it's a hierarchy. And I always look at this blank spot on my wall because I guess I haven't sprung to buy something that, will hang up there.
Uh-huh. It's your blank spot. It's your inspiration.
Yeah, it
zone,
is. It's
right?
my inspirational void on the wall. Every decision that I make, I go community, organization, individual.
Okay.
That's my hierarchy. I don't put any individuals first. If I put an individual first, then I'm not making a decision that's best for the community.
Uh-huh.
I'm making a decision, and I could be that individual. If I were to put that in context, let's say, and this happens. Let's say I have a best friend that works under me, and I've known this individual for 20 years, and we're like godparents to each other's kids,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been best men at each other's weddings or high school friends, whatever. And that person works there, and they do a good job, but a promotion comes up. And somebody else that wants the promotion does a better job. And when you look at that hierarchy, they would serve the community better. They would serve the organization better. They would serve the individuals better. But this guy's my closest friend.
Yeah.
Who do you pick? If you pick your friend,
Yeah.
you're serving the individual first. You're serving yourself, you're serving him, and you're making the community and the organization be below that.
Mm-hmm.
If you serve the community first, because ultimately, Delaware County Sheriff's Office, that's my flag. That's what I do. But I do that as part of serving Delaware County, as part of serving the state of California, as part of serving the United States of America. My flag is the Sheriff's Office, but I have to have that integrate with our community to be successful. And that's the hierarchy. So I put the community first. And I make the decisions that are best for the community, putting people in certain positions, forming partnerships with other organizations, allowing us to do a better job as an organization because we put the community first. Now, if it continues to be community organization, the funny thing is you don't have to worry about the individuals.
It falls in,
You're automatically doing the right thing for them.
Wow.
And that guy that you didn't promote, he goes back and he works harder and he tries to make himself more marketable. Mm-hmm. And if he does and he excels and he's the right guy for the job, the next time that it comes around, what have you done? Mm-hmm. You've built somebody. You haven't just settled or moved a bar because of your own personal lack of ability to lead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's really funny in thinking about this show and just bracketing and going through the whole format things, the radio stuff. I kept having a hard time calling you Sheriff Eric Apperson.
Yeah.
In my mind, it came out Coach Eric Apperson. It's
right.
Seriously.
Sure,
and that
sure.
was like, why? Why is that? Why am I making Coach Eric Apperson? Who is this? I've never even known you as a coach. Why does this keep popping up in my head for like the last 24 hours? It's been a weird thing. I have to make myself say Sheriff Eric Apperson. And it sounds like the same sort of thing, the same sort of leadership role.
It is, and it's funny. I mean, I have a hard time calling myself Sheriff Eric Apperson. I answer my phone Apperson.
Apperson, yeah.
Because I've taken so many roles so fast through my career that it seems like every couple of years, I'm doing something a little bit different. And I have so much respect for the position that I'm in because I really think when it's being done correctly, it's one of the most important positions in the country. I mean, the sheriff's job is so incredibly unique. Sometimes, and this is going to sound so narcissistic, but sometimes I think, wow. I mean, I wake up sometimes and I go, wow, I'm the sheriff. like every now and then I bump my wife in the middle of the night and I go, hey,
sheriff's knocking.
Yeah, the sheriff's sleeping right next to you in case you didn't notice. Yeah.
But do you ever wake up and go, wow, I'm the coroner too?
No,
yeah.
No, I don't do that so much. But the point is, it's incredible. I feel absolutely privileged. I mean, here's a snapshot of my life. I have 4 incredible kids. I have a wife that supports me to the end of the earth and probably saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have the coolest job on the planet and probably one that I would have never thought I deserved, and that's my life. It sounds so corny, but every day I feel like I've won the lottery. I'm surrounded by great people. I am exactly where I want to be. My kids just continue to amaze me, from the 3-year-old to the 13-year-old. I don't know what could possibly be next. I just want to do this for as long as I possibly can. I want this moment, to last. Things are getting better. The community's a great place to be. I mean, I got into this career so young that I get scouted a lot. Other organizations from out of the area are knocking on the door.
Really? Yeah.
And pulling me different directions. And I could definitely go somewhere where it's a lot more lucrative. But I've just chose not to. I like it here.
Yeah.
I like the fact that I can walk down the street and I can wave to the majority of the people that I encounter.
Yes.
I like the fact that, I can come into this radio station without a script, and I could be supportive of what you're doing. And I like the fact that I used to DJ here, and just and you mentioned coach. I mean, I coached 9 years of soccer. I coached 5 years of baseball. And I still run into kids that call me coach. Yeah. And I still run into people that call me Sarge.
Yeah.
And I still run into folks that call me App. I like that. If I live somewhere else, I'm not going to have that.
I don't want to get into throwing you like soft questions, like this is the View or something, right?
But give me some complicated ones.
No, I will. I'm getting
What's
to
your
it.
favorite color?
No, I want to ask
Blue.
you because you mentioned and we've actually talked, and you've told me the kind of role that Kyoko has played in your life.
Sure.
How has this year been for her? If you can, and I don't mean to make and Kyoko, please forgive me for having your husband speak for you. This is not what I'm trying to do. But what's it been like? What's her experience of you being sheriff?
The campaign was tough.
Yeah.
The campaign was tough, and I won't really go into details on that because I think it's good to be left in the past.
Just let it go, yeah.
But I think what impresses me most about my wife, what I admire the most about my wife, is that she's proud, and she could lose it all tomorrow, and she would still be proud. And I'm not that way. I lose sleep if somebody doesn't like me.
Really?
Yeah. I could hear 100 compliments in a day from people that I value.
Yeah, and they don't.
And I could hear one negative thing from somebody that I don't care about at all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fall asleep thinking about that.
Yeah.
She's not wired that way. She's very confident in who she is, and she's very comfortable in who she is. And she was right there with me, and we had nights that were pretty hard getting to where we are right now. And there were nights where I was upset and she was kind of talking me down, and there were nights where she was upset and I was talking her down. Thankfully, there were not nights that we were both fired up and there was nobody to talk her down. But after I became sheriff, it was a sense of validation and accomplishment. I would say more for her. And in the sense where, she was my campaign manager and she was my financial manager and she was my speech editor. And I
got the impression that she sort of just across the board during the campaign just grounded you, kept you gave you something to orbit around.
It's exactly what it was. She was my rock. And I know that's just this cheesy sort of cliche thing that people say, but I need that. I'm a little wild at heart and I'm a little impulsive and, I tend to put myself out there and get a little emotional sometimes. And she doesn't. She's collected, and I think throughout this process, a couple people have called her the first lady of Del Norte.
That's me.
And she's not somebody that needs accolades, but I see this little twinkle in her eye that if you weren't married to her, you wouldn't see it, and it feels really good for me. Growing up, I wasn't necessarily proud of my family, without going into too much detail. There were some struggles there, and I don't ever remember seeing a lot of my family and being like, yes, they're mine. And, the fact that my wife, she just went to a bachelorette party and they went on some cruise, I think, down to Mexico. And it was like this 3-day deal, and she comes back, and I'm asking her how it went, kind of a thing, and she talks about how she got to brag about me.
Wow.
I mean, that feels good.
Yeah.
And when my kids see me, they get to say, yeah, that's my dad. And our 2 oldest kids, which we've had the shortest period of time, in the collection that is the Apperson kids, they have an identity, and they have that last name. That's in this community. You don't know anybody else with the last name Apperson besides my wife and I now, and our kids. And to see my kids be proud of a last name and proud of their dad's job and his role in the community, it's incredible. And to provide that to my wife, who is a lady that wants for nothing. I mean, we don't make a lot of money. I'm the only income in the house, and we have 4 kids, and she's staying at home, and that was our family plan. But even if tomorrow we were millionaires, my wife is a lady that still shops at the thrift store, still cuts the corners as much as she can.
First lady of sweet deals.
Yeah, sweet deals, right. Yeah, she'll go to 6 different stores to save money, and all this stuff. Like, she's that person. She doesn't want for anything. She loves who she is. She's proud of who she is. But the fact that I can provide something to her that makes her feel a sense of being proud, I think that was what happened as a result, of all this that we've been through together. And I don't think I could give her anything that's more valuable than that, because she just doesn't want anything. Yeah. So it's really, that's what's been great. And she has assumed the role like a champ. She just comes down to the sheriff's office. Right now she's taking portraits of all the staff.
Oh, cool. I was going to ask if she was still taking pictures.
Yeah. And I'm not even there half the time when she's there. I'm somewhere else, and she just comes in there and they just fall in. She just takes charge and makes them do what they're supposed to do. And she's a real hard person not to like. So yeah, it's been great.
So we've heard about how wonderful your life is.
Yes.
This last year, what have been the biggest challenges then for your first year in, coming in and sort of redefining a department and then taking on this role and taking on this job? And it was a hard slog of a campaign.
Right.
And then you have to face being sheriff.
Right.
What's been,
right. Then there's that. Yeah.
What's been the hardest part of, what have been the challenges? What have been the things that you necessarily haven't been able to overcome yet?
I would say, what's going on over there?
What's going on?
We have a listener that says, this is painful. We got it. You're happy and perfect and wonderful. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, okay, I'm done. All right, we're going to talk about the hard things now.
Yes.
Oh, geez. Okay. Gosh. Well, I would say the toughest challenge. I want to talk to that person. Don't tell me who
lay
it
awake
is.
at night, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. You, sir or ma'am, or who I'm going to be thinking about
It's
when
both.
I fall asleep. Is it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Both, yeah.
Okay. All right.
They
I know
were
that's
down for
happening
you.
now too.
I bet I know.
There you
Okay,
go.
yeah.
All right. The hard
stuff. Yeah.
Hard stuff. Okay. It would be shaking the pre-existing reputation. Telling people, that get a hold of me and they say some crime was committed, and I say, okay, well, what happened when you called it in? Well, I didn't call it in. The sheriff's office never comes out anyway. And I say, well, so how are we going to fix it? I mean, so you're just not going to call? You're just going to call me and complain as a personal friend? Do you want me to come take the report? What are you looking for? And I think we've earned it at some level. It's a small community. There's no reason we should have a bad reputation in a small community. So I think the biggest challenge has just been shaking, whether it was earned or not, a reputation that we don't care, we don't respond quickly or effectively. Bringing an air of transparency. There's a lot of people that always kind of feel like cops are up to something. That's been a struggle. Also, the relationships that have just been damaged over the years, trying to repair those. Recently, the cross deputization with the Yurok tribal police. I'm not just simply coming into that as a new idea.
Yeah.
I'm coming into that as a poor relationship and what's left of a bad idea. So you have to undo that. I consider myself sort of, I'm simple, I'm mechanically inclined, I'm analytical. So, I equate everything to two things, either working on engines or baseball. I have an analogy that falls into both of those for everything that happens in my life. And, this is the equivalent of, you're not just getting a new engine to build, you're not just the new guy coming in and building a new motor out of new parts. You're the guy that has an existing engine and you're trying to, make it run better, and even in the instances where it's running perfectly, you're trying to help people understand that it's running well, because the perception is that it isn't. I got to tell you, when I got to the sheriff's office, they were doing a lot of things very well. They really were. A lot of things. There's quality staff there. There's, some decent programs. They're responding correctly. There's great training there. I mean, there are a lot of good things happening there before I got there. Things that I didn't know about as a cop that is a block away.
Yeah, exactly. Right around the corner. You had no idea.
And one thing that I realized when I got there is, they need to promote themselves a little bit more. They need to share with people, because one thing that I've learned is, and it doesn't matter what situation or instance or group of people it is, but if you're left to your own device, you often think worst case scenario, but if you just become transparent and let people know what's going on, case in point, you call because you hear, the door on your greenhouse slams shut in the middle of the night, and we don't come for a half hour. What do you think? What do you think when we don't show up for a half hour?
There's something wrong with you.
My plants are going to die.
Yeah, we don't care, right? You think we don't care. They didn't come. They're
about
down
my
there.
plants, obviously.
Yeah. And I'm worried about my plants. Yeah, but they're down. We're down in the squad room. We're sleeping, eating.
Yeah,
donuts,
exactly. You got your feet up.
out
Yeah,
in a carb coma or
Where
something.
do you get donuts in this town anymore?
We have them shipped in. No, Vita Cucina. They make some
they have
amazing pastries. Well, you can't call them donuts.
Pastries
It's kind of
are
like
not
purses and handbags. Vita Cucina's like quality pastries.
Okay.
Oh, so good. But back to where I was going before you distracted me with delicious pastries. So
Sprinkles.
so good. So people think you don't care and you're not coming. What they don't understand is that at the same time you called in, 2 domestics came out.
Yeah.
And there's some victim getting beat up and somebody else got a door kicked in or somebody's trapped in a car that crashed.
Well, you can't fault them for that, because they're the ones whose greenhouse door slammed in the middle of the night.
Right.
They're the only thing that matters to them right now.
So what can we do?
Yeah, what can you do in a situation like that?
We can call them back.
That's exactly what I was
We
going
can
to
call
ask.
them back and we can say, hey,
We're on our way.
it
to
is
something
important,
else,
but we want to let you know this is going on without giving you too many details. And sadly, we had to prioritize this over what you're
Do you do
experiencing.
that?
Right. We are. We're starting that practice, and we're doing that. And,
Wow.
and I've brought more transparency with, like right now you can go to the Del Norte County website and you can see who's in our jail and what they look like and why they're there. But the thing that we just started a couple weeks back, which granted it was my idea, but my investment was sort of getting a Crayola crown and drawing it on a piece of paper and showing it to IT, and they actually did the work. You can look on the Del Norte County Sheriff's site now, and you can see the activity log entered by the dispatcher, and those are the words that the dispatcher's using.
Is that what shows up on the Facebook and on the in the paper?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's where they get their information.
But is it the verbatim? Is it what the dispatcher typed in?
Well, the paper is.
Okay.
Facebook is people that have listened to it, and they're just kind of typing what they think
listening
they
to the
heard.
scanner,
and it's
right?
it ranges in accuracy, but
Who writes them at the sheriff's office?
the dispatcher.
And it could be different people?
Yeah, whoever's working dispatch right now, you're actually seeing the information that they're typing in to our data system.
Because they're wonderful storytellers.
We've developed
they really, really are. It's a lot of fun to read.
We've developed an interface so they don't take on extra work, and this other program communicates with what they're entering. But yeah, you're seeing the words that the dispatchers plug
That's a
in
lot
there.
of fun. I like that.
And you're seeing the stuff from all the agencies that come through that communications center. So that's really helped.
How much artistic freedom do they have?
Little to none.
It's and that's what's appealing about them, is that the art and the artistry and the enjoyment is just the situation.
And I know, and I've already got a little bit of friction out of this. Some of the stuff, the dispatchers, you know what? They're not used to being filtered, and they shouldn't be filtered.
Yeah.
So when you call up and you say, a Zeppelin just came down in a ball of flames in your backyard because you're in some drug-induced state and you're seeing, cats and purple elephants and that gets called in. That's what the dispatcher types in the chat.
I never see that.
You know, and so there's been a couple screenshots floating around Facebook already of some of our more interesting reporting parties and their opening statements. But I think it's good for people to understand it. I mean, that's what we're getting. That's what people are calling in. That's the hand we're getting dealt.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
It's not very simple.
It's a common feature on Small Town Talk, though. We'll read
it is.
the best of the police
It's
blog.
so interesting.
Do you have a favorite off the top of your head?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, no, I
don't. I don't. Yeah, that's like asking me what my favorite song is. It just all of a sudden my brain
goes,
just fills up with all this
yeah.
stuff. But I mean, there's a bunch that have, you know, a naked guy riding a cow, you know, down the highway. I mean, and these are real calls. You know, we had one recently that was graphic about a guy woke up and claimed that his spouse cut his genitals off, which ended up not being the case. Yeah. Totally, you know, it's pretty easy to solve that. You know, it's pretty easy to validate that report. You know, but these are the calls that are coming in. Yeah. So, you know, you get the chuckle and then you go and try to sort it out. Often it's funny when you hear it, and after it's funny when you hear it. But the reality of it is that's going to be a pretty terrible call to deal with if somebody's calling something like that in, you know, because you're dealing with their state of mind when you show up.
Yeah. So you've talked about changing the culture. With the sheriff. What about crime in Del Norte County?
Well, I think those go hand in hand. You know, it's back to that analogy I gave earlier. If that person believes that we're not going to show up and they don't call, then we don't get to address that issue. I don't invest a lot into statistics. You know, I've been around them too long. I've seen them manipulated too many times. But if you wanted to know how many people drink in excess in Del Norte County, how would you ever find that out?
Yeah.
The first you're going to look at is how many people get arrested. You know, well, how many people don't get arrested?
Right.
You know,
you
that
can't
should
define.
be.
Exactly.
I mean, there's just no way to define it. So when you look at is crime going up, is crime going down? You know, we don't really have a rock solid way to determine that because when I talk to the person that tells me that they're so frustrated with the lack of service that they don't call the crime in, how do we put that in a stat? And how many people do we not talk to that share that same sentiment? People that wake up and see their tires slashed and they just want to move on with their life, replace their tires and never make the phone call. You know, all in all, I think that we will statistically, if we're doing our job the way we should, we will statistically see what relates to a rise in crime because we're going to see people calling and asking for help, people reporting that would never report before.
I see what you're saying. So because of the change of culture and the openness and the engaging the community at large, that you're going to end up just being called more often, and that's going to look like a crime going up.
And then hopefully we respond to that effectively and come up with, you know, ideas to mitigate that and reduce it from happening in the future that, you know, we'll see that spike as the community trusts us, and then we'll see it sort of decrease as we approach it. You know, thefts are a big deal. And I mean, you know, you want to talk about a national problem, you know, with the way economics are right now, this is what's happening. People are stealing stuff from other people at all-time high levels. So we need to come up with ways to be proactive. You know, some of the things that we do, we'll get a truck and we'll park it in a parking lot and we'll put a bunch of tools in it and we'll wait for somebody to come by and steal those tools. And when they do, they're going to get arrested for stealing. In a community this size, it's not like we have 10,000 thieves running around taking everything that isn't bolted down. You know, we have a handful of people that are committing most of the crimes. You know, so it's important for us to identify those individuals.
I haven't seen. Is there any news on the Crescent Electric van?
You know, it's an ongoing case, and we are getting some decent leads. We're in constant contact with the Rustads, and they're being great. We've actually recovered a little bit of property.
Really good.
Off of some tips that have came in and people that have been cooperative. So I feel optimistic about that.
Good. Wow. I didn't think there'd be a chance. There'd be a chance at all that any of that would be found.
People are tired of it.
Yeah.
You know, and most people are tired of it. And I think the people that are stealing and doing bad things represent a very small fraction of the population in this community.
What's happening with the Overlook? Is it still closed at night up there?
You're talking about Inert Speech?
Yeah. Yeah, not the overlook on the highway, but Inverts Beach.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say Pecker's Knob.
I know, I didn't either. I avoided all. I almost did. I'm glad you said it, but I kind of went. You mean? Whoa, map. What's it called on the map?
Yeah.
Inverts Beach overlook, right? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah,
I think it is. For that issue, it's hard to police things, and
that always seemed like punishing the victim in that instance.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, and in a way, it is, but I think, it's rare in the fight against crime that you have a best case scenario that everybody comes out on top.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that was the case, we almost wouldn't have laws,
How so? What do you mean?
Well, everybody knows that you shouldn't drive to the point where you're so drunk that you're going to crash.
Yeah.
But people still do it.
Well, yeah,
on a pretty regular basis.
But you don't ban other people from driving on the highway because there might be a probability that they'll encounter a drunk driver.
But we ban them from driving on the highway drunk because there's a probability they're going to crash.
Yeah, but you don't.
So it's a slippery slope, is all I'm saying.
No, that seems like the opposite of what I'm saying.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just need to think about it.
I just need to think about it. It's just because I like to go up the overlook, man, and going up to the.
How do you feel about helmet laws?
Don't get them started.
Yeah, I
don't like them.
I think, but that takes it back to the whole structure that's built up with liability and insurance and all of this other stuff, and that the fact that people have to pay for my rehabilitation if I crash on a motorcycle and bash half my brain in and have to learn how to walk again.
Right.
So, I don't think it's actually what I have a problem with is insurance. Not so much helmet laws. I know that sounds so. What, you got a problem against insurance? What's your problem with insurance? It's just having to have insurance, having to have the rest of society, and then you can say, okay, well, then what's the problem with healthcare costs? How far back do you want to pass?
It just
the
keeps
buck?
going. So,
exactly.
And I think ultimately, if we were to fast forward this horribly boring conversation that we're having right now, we would probably get to the point where we both agree. Which is there just has to be a weight and measure of things where you. And I hate that this has to happen, but you have to plug in common sense into statutory laws, and there's that weight and measure. You shouldn't have to tell people to wear a helmet on a motorcycle. But guess what? If you didn't have to wear a helmet on a motorcycle, I would probably be a guy that didn't wear a helmet on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And the helmet saved my life a couple of years ago.
That's right.
I mean,
yeah.
No disputing it. Yeah. Saved my life. And today, I probably wouldn't want to wear a helmet unless I had to, and
even now, even after
even
that?
now, yeah, and I mean, just at some level, some of these laws, they have to make common sense part of the statute, but again, how far do you take it? New York's a good example. It was a couple of years ago, I think they briefly outlawed, what was it, like anything bigger than a 32-ounce soda in a drive-through.
Yeah,
remember
right,
that
the big
whole,
gulps.
Yeah, so I mean, where do you stop? I mean, what's more deadly, smoking a pack of cigarettes every day or eating, 2 mega cheeseburgers with bacon and which I used to be 320 pounds. I didn't smoke or drink. I just, I went by every fast food restaurant that I could on my way to work and ate as fast as I possibly could.
Wow.
And I was killing myself.
And then you have to worry about secondhand cheeseburger too.
Right.
Yeah. That's a killer.
Or bacon juice. Yeah. But here's my point. Is that healthy? Is that going to, drive up medical costs and all this other stuff because I have, clogged arteries and everything? I mean, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be legal? I think there isn't a person in the world that really thinks that they should outlaw cheeseburgers. Well, I take that back.
There probably are.
Most people think that you shouldn't outlaw cheeseburgers, but I just, it's a slippery slope. I didn't go to school long enough to make laws. I try not to weigh in on it too much.
Okay, well, this next question then isn't so much about making laws or anything, but about your experience. When the night that you won the election and we were out at the community center at Elk Valley Rancheria, right afterwards, I have it on videotape even.
Yeah.
I've got the Adam Spencer comes up to you and he's asking you your questions. Typically, hey, how's it feel? What's going? That's great. So you've got, because that same night, you've got legalized recreational marijuana 30 miles north of you as the incoming sheriff. What are your plans to deal with that? And you looked at him, and I think you even said,
"What?"
You even said, Oh, come on, man. Really?
I think I did. I think
it starts already? I haven't even been sworn in.
Yeah, the honeymoon was over
right there.
2.7 seconds after it started.
So what's happening with that? What sort of impact has Delaware County had in the shadow of legalized pot?
There are so many moving parts when it comes to it. You know, I mean, obviously our neighbors to the north, you know, it's recreationally legal. You know, other states, you know, I think Colorado, I think Washington's, you know, getting close and on board, and Washington's there, right?
Yeah, I remember Colorado, Washington, Alaska,
right? Yeah, Super Bowl
Oregon.
Was a joke, right? Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The two states that legalized are now having the Super Bowl,
and there was something in between. It was Idaho was in the shape of a bong. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
yeah. I get all my intel from memes.
Yeah, all the culture I have comes from
So, you know, as far as right now in a law enforcement capacity, there's not a huge difference for us. You know, we're still conducting business relatively as we were. I think in the not so distant future, it'll probably become recreationally legal in California. And when it does, you know, we address that. It's not big on our radar. We keep doing work. You know, when we see people that have huge grows that aren't legal and they're for profit and they're selling them, especially to kids and everything like that, then, you know, we get involved. Other issues we'll end up dealing with, you know, tribal issues. You know, a lot of the tribes in California are entering into contracts with some of these medical marijuana dispensaries, and they're having tribes grow marijuana on their tribal property and trust land. And, you know, is that going to affect our community? I think it will, you know. But I don't know. I don't get that excited about it. You know, when it comes to laws and statutes, I'm more reactive. And I try, much like I mentioned before, I try to keep my personal feelings out of it. I have personal opinions on stuff, but it really doesn't matter. It just doesn't.
It's not part of your job.
No, yeah. I can't decide I don't like a law, and so I'm not going to uphold it.
Of course,
I mean, that would make me the worst sort of person for my position. You know, this is not a position where my personal opinion should get fused into it. I have a pretty clear job. You know, I protect people's rights. I protect their property. And I do that with the support of criminal statutes. And those are all written down in a book, just like a dictionary. And, you know, there's things I don't like. Recently, our governor signed Senate Bill 707 back in October. And the only reason I heard about it is because 707 sort of hops off the page because of where we live. It didn't get any media attention. And what it says is that there's no longer an exemption for people that have concealed weapons in regards to school property. So in the 90s, a statute came on the books that said you can't have guns on school grounds. And when you say it like that, everybody kind of goes, yeah, okay. Because we assume like cops can, but you're basically saying everybody else can't have guns on school grounds. And everybody kind of goes, yeah, okay, that makes sense. We don't want that. But there was no mention of people that have concealed weapons permits. So it's what's called an implied exemption.
Implied exemption.
Right.
Okay.
Since it wasn't addressed, then it was assumed that it was okay. And, you know, if you have the person that goes to the county sheriff and they go through the background, through Department of Justice, they pay all the fees, they take the safety and proficiency test, they fill out the application, they meet with the sheriff a couple times, and everything goes okay, they can have a concealed weapons permit. In that instance, those people had a loophole and they would not get in trouble if they had a gun on school grounds. Well, the governor in October signed Senate Bill 707, which took away that exemption, specifically said, even if you have a CCW, you cannot carry a gun on school grounds. It will be a felony. And, you know, it didn't, and where that affects our community is we're in a small place. So, you know, maybe you go watch a play on a Saturday at the only auditorium in town at Crescent Elk. Well, you're on school grounds, even though it's not a school function. Maybe you walk the track at the high school after school hours and it's dark and it feels weird and, you know, and you want to be safe. And so that's where it affects this community. I mean, technically you're committing a crime at that point where you weren't before. That's an example of one I adamantly disagree with on a personal level. But it's not my place. I'm not the governor. I'm a guy that thinks if I'm not around my kids in school and you're somebody that's safe with a gun and you've demonstrated that and you've passed a background and you've done all this stuff where we vetted you, I want you around my kids if I'm not there, because you might be the person that keeps them safe. Furthermore, I think that the only people that care about those laws are people that follow the laws.
Yeah,
right?
True. Exactly.
The person we're trying to stop is the person going to the school and shooting it up, and they don't care if it's a crime to bring a gun on school grounds.
Yeah.
It's not. They're not going to go, well, I'm going to go shoot a bunch of people, but it's a crime to bring a gun there, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, from the outside.
Yeah, you know, all that does is it stops good people that make good choices that have been vetted from having guns that could ultimately protect our kids. And we've learned so much about these school shootings. You know, the science has changed. We were shown that we were wrong in the beginning, and we responded.
What are you talking about? The science and how was law enforcement wrong with school shootings?
Well, okay, so Columbine, which is kind of the one everybody's heard of, right? When that happened, law enforcement at that time was trained that when there's some kind of mass shooting, that we all show up, we stage, we make, you know, our size as big as we can. We get as many cops there. We make a plan.
It's like the Die Hard approach, right?
Kind of. We set up a perimeter, you know, we wait for SWAT to come in. And, you know, these things, the reality of it is it's not TV. I mean, it takes an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to really assemble multiple agencies and get them in there. Well, meanwhile, kids were dying. And I remember this one quote from Columbine where, and, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but a cop was being questioned from a parent, why didn't you go in there and save my kid? And the cop said, well, you know, they had all kinds of high-powered weapons and bombs and IEDs and stuff like that. And I just had a gun. You know, I just had a handgun. And the parent said, my kid just had a pencil.
Yeah.
You know, where were you? And it made us revisit how we approach those sort of things. Where now, several years later, if a shooting like that happens, and you're one of the first 2 or 3 cops that shows up and all you have is a handgun, you're going in. You're going in right now. You're not waiting for help. And it doesn't matter if you're a 2-day-old patrolman or if you're, you know, the sheriff. If you're first on scene, you're going in.
Wow.
And, you know, you're going to be the person that's taking the fire from the kids. And hopefully you have the equipment and the training to survive that and neutralize the threat. And that's been a big difference. So now when I see something like SB 707 come through, I think, okay, so now that threat, that person that's going to do that horrible thing to our kids can all but assume that until the cops get there, you know, they have free run.
Interesting. That's an interesting take. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how my mind works. Okay. At face value, yeah, you don't want cops or you don't want guns at school.
Yeah.
Everybody can say that. You know, I could even go as far as to say if I knew I was the only person in the world that had a gun, I would probably give it up. You know, and I'm a gun guy.
Yeah.
I like guns. You know, I build guns. I listen to Johnny Cash under a 12-foot American flag while I make guns. I like guns. Okay. I do. It's a tradition in our house that after Thanksgiving or after Halloween, we take all our pumpkins up to French Hill
and shoot them.
Yeah, all of us. My wife has her guns. My 3-year-old has her favorite gun, and we go up and I'm a gun guy from a gun family, and I'm going to have a gun as long as somebody else has a gun.
Sure.
You know, and we're never going to be in this world where they aren't here. And as we continue to take them away from people that are doing the right thing, we're simply empowering the people that are doing the wrong thing. You know, and I hate to sound like some far right-wing extremist, you know, but guns, they're here and they're not going anywhere.
It's very much American.
And as long as they're here, we all need to be responsible. We all need to be prepared, and we all need to educate ourselves. You know, and if you choose to not have one, that's a choice you make, and that's fine. And you know what? Somebody that doesn't want one shouldn't have one because they have a higher likelihood of it getting used against them or being taken out of their hands and being used somewhere else. But people that do want one and they do want to be responsible and they do want to contribute some overall safety to their community, we need to make sure those folks have that opportunity.
Have you seen what's happening in San Francisco with they're looking at the rules of engagement for police officers?
Yeah.
What's your thought? I like to laugh. What's your thought? What's your thought on that?
Gosh,
they're trying to step in between
Yeah.
police officers and perpetrators or whoever, people who might accidentally be shot by police officers, whatever, and get everybody. It sounds like they're trying to make everybody step back and take a breath. But as you would acknowledge, in a lot of situations, especially when there are firearms involved, you don't have that option.
We don't. We don't have that chance as cops.
So do you think that's a bureaucratic overlay? That's something that actually is going to get in the way of police officers?
I think it's a knee-jerk reaction, and I think that, and I'm not intimately familiar with the proposition, but generally speaking, ideas like that are what kill more people than save people. Mm-hmm. When you have a cop that has to take pause in that split-second situation, which we are experiencing now, by the way, because they think, okay, I'm going to be armchair quarterback the rest of my life over this. And, my kids are going to lose their house and my wife is going to lose, or my spouse or my family is going to lose everything that they care about. Like, it's causing that pause. Mm-hmm. And people are getting hurt. Cops are dying. People that aren't cops are dying. We need to encourage our cops to react and respond with the training that they're provided. The solution is providing better training and more ongoing training and spending money on training. Mm-hmm. We need to have cops that are receiving much more training than they are right now. And, the budget and the funding sources, the lids should be taken off of that. Look at the training that our military receives. That's what they do. That's their job. They train until they use that training. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And in between uses of that training, they're training.
Right, right. Yeah. And when they sleep, they're training, mm-hmm. With law enforcement, we go to a 6-month academy and we get some on the job training, and then we get, like a mandated perishable skills course. And unless we go to something special, there's guys that go years and that's mm-hmm. all the training that they receive. So we get them out in this situation where they have to make a split-second life or death decision. And now we're telling them, hey, think about it first.
Yeah.
I can tell you that most of the people that come up with rules like that haven't been shot at.
Yeah, haven't been in a situation like that.
They haven't had to really make a life or death decision, mm-hmm. And these cops, these are good people. They are. They're by and large are good people. I read a stat, and how I feel about stats, but this one was fairly accurate in the sense where it was based on, complaints generated by the public. And it was the number that you hear all the time. 99.9% of cops go through their entire careers without generating a legitimate complaint. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's 1 million cops in the United States right now that didn't do anything wrong today, but we don't hear about them.
Yeah.
And what we're doing, again, like the analogy I made with some of these gun owners, is we're punishing those cops because we're imposing all these restraints on them that are saying, no, you need to have your video camera on 24 hours a day. And if you don't, then it's because you're hiding something. And we all know it. Mm-hmm. When I first started in my career, if I arrested somebody for a felony, I went to court, I raised my hand, I promised I was telling the truth, and that was almost enough. Mm-hmm. With a little bit more evidence, that was almost enough to get somebody convicted. Because people believed in us. Yeah. And some cops have ruined that, and I get it. And some media have exploited it and made it exponentially worse, mm-hmm. But now if we go to court and we didn't have our body camera on, people think we're hiding something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
And here's the irony. Most of these we work 12-hour shifts. Most of these body cameras only have 10-hour batteries. And so it's almost like the people are setting us up for failure, and it's tough. But I can tell you, I've been a cop as long as I could possibly be a cop, in the sense where I started as early as I could, mm-hmm. and I've interacted with law enforcement officers from so many agencies, so many states, and I struggle to come up with a list of ones that I don't trust, mm-hmm. I can come up with a bunch I don't like, that I don't, that I don't spend time with, but as far as just being honest people, they're mostly honest people, and they're here to do the right thing.
Is that do you have a comment on the Yates conviction?
Sure. that was unfortunate from the beginning, and we're going to feel the ripple effects of that for a long time. That was a detail from the sheriff's office, so ultimately I'm responsible for it. We're serving a search warrant. During the search warrant, the person that we were serving the warrant on had surveillance inside the house that we weren't aware of, and it was alleged that one of the people serving the warrant, if not more, decided to steal personal property from that house. And that's the information that I got. Mm-hmm. So then I have to make a decision. Do I out that person? Do I blame it on them? Do I separate myself from it? Which I didn't do. I said, hey, this is mine. I'm culpable for it. Whether he works for our department or not, mm-hmm. he was approved to be there through something our department was doing. And maybe we have multiple people. Maybe we have one person. I don't know. And then you have to make another decision. Do you investigate it? As the community, would I want a law enforcement agency investigating their own accusation or an accusation lodged against them? And the simple answer is no. Mm-hmm. So call the FBI. We call another law enforcement higher up the food chain, far enough removed to where they can have an objective investigation. They don't know anybody as far as last names. They're not somebody's cousin or related to anybody or, grew up around here or anything like that. So they took on the investigation. They did it, what I believe was a very thorough investigation. And they turned the report over to the district attorney's office, and the district attorney's office made a recommendation, and one individual was ultimately convicted of a petty theft, which is what it was. It was a petty theft. Mm-hmm. Unless you can prove that he had the intent to steal before he went in there, it's a petty theft.
Do you think there isn't more weight given to that petty theft because it was law enforcement?
Yeah. I mean, I think in a certain way the public expects heads to roll. Mm-hmm. I think law enforcement is, it stings the public's perception more when it's somebody with a badge that commits a crime. Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think that someone with a badge should be held in society at large to a higher standard?
I don't.
You don't? Is it just a job on some level?
No,
like
and I tell you what, I think it goes the other way. I think everybody should be held at that standard. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's worse if you're a cop and you commit a crime. I think everybody, it's worse when they commit a crime.
Okay.
So I don't want to imply that I think it should go the other direction, but I think whatever this, facet of people that believes there should be a higher expectation for law enforcement, mm-hmm. I think they should operate at that higher expectation. I think we should all raise ourselves up to be at that higher expectation.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're getting it wrong as a society. But, if a cop commits a crime, should he or she get hammered for it? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But no more, no less than anybody who committed a crime like that.
Right, because we're setting a double standard, So the next person that, goes into somebody's house and has the legal authority to be there and they steal money from them, they shouldn't get in as much trouble. And to me, that seems silly.
Yeah, good point, I suppose.
I mean, it feels like we're lowering standards. We're not raising them for a certain group. We're lowering them for a bigger group.
Okay, yeah, no, I get you. I get what
I
you're
don't
saying.
like that.
That's an interesting take. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew. You got any more talking to do?
I'm good at it.
No, I know. It was fun. I knew we'd come in, we'd just talk, and it would go on.
Yeah, I love it.
Show's just about over.
Is it already?
Yeah.
Wow,
so,
you guys are great.
Briefly, then, take us on. Take us into the future. What's happening for the sheriff's office here? What do you have on the horizon?
We got to get our staffing levels up, and we've shown some great signs of growth. Again, we've hired a lot more people recently than we've hired in a long time. Mm-hmm. We need to continue to build and maintain this relationship with the community and our community partners. And we need to convince the public that we serve that they are just as instrumental in what we do as we are. Mm-hmm. And I think those are key points. That's why cops are here. It's because the community got together and decided that we needed to make some rules, and then we needed people to enforce those rules. But it's really the community. We can't do it without them. If you don't call, we can't come. If you don't cooperate, we can't do a lot. And I'm showing Well, I'm seeing a huge growth in the level of cooperation through our communities, through measurable growth. I have a citizen advisory committee. Mm-hmm. These are just people that volunteer to come and talk to me once a month. How are things going out there? And they're not my cheerleaders. There are some brutally honest people in that group, mm-hmm. but that's what I need to hear. And I don't filter it. We turn off the cameras. There's nobody else on my staff there. It's just me and this group of people.
Wow.
And we're behind closed doors, and they're saying, "Hey, Sheriff, this is what's going on." Mm-hmm. If they didn't believe that served a purpose, they wouldn't come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think we just need to continue to do that. We need to continue to build a relationship. We need to continue to teach kids that cops are the good guys. Mm-hmm. Parents, stop grabbing your kids when we walk in the door. Yeah, and telling them, "Oh, the cops are here. You must have done something bad."
Oh, nice.
But no, we're on a good track. I mean, we're doing good things. I just got a list of things. I'm working on an annual report right now. Mm-hmm. And that's something we're going to start doing at the sheriff's office. And every year we're going to turn out this report that details kind of what we did, what we want to do, experiences we had, talks about staffing a little bit. And that's going to be accessible online so the public can see it.
Wow.
And as I'm going through that, I got to tell you, man, there's a lot of good news.
Mm-hmm, cool.
There's a lot of good things I'm writing down in there.
How far away is that? How far away is the report?
Well, the deadline's going to be a little longer because this is our first year of doing it. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of just arbitrarily assigned June to be the deadline to have that done. But in the future, I think probably by about the end of March, we'll try to prepare those.
That's exciting. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's right on. Well, we think you're doing a wonderful job. We're glad you're our sheriff.
Well, I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Oh, cut it out.
Well, I wasn't talking to you. You can't tell on the microphone.
I know.
Lee's
doing a wonderful job.
Lee.
I'm fabulous.
Lee is even prettier in person, which I didn't think was possible.
Then what?
Yeah.
Than all the places I see you online.
That's true.
You see me online? How dare you say that?
I've seen pictures of you on the internet.
The day doesn't start until you post something.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying when I see you on the internet, I think, wow, she is a pretty lady. And then I see you in person and somehow you've gotten even prettier.
Thank you.
Aw.
Thank you.
Paul, not so
I'm
much.
not a
He's exactly what you would expect.
Yeah. What you hear is what you get.
Right.
He lost some weight.
I lost
Did he?
some.
Yeah.
Like he cut his hair? Or
yeah. I have something here I want to play.
Okay.
This was a little special piece of a broadcast regarding actually it's about me sorta and my love for country.
All right.
You?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one of our old DJs. I think this is probably this was AM low power AM days. This was that guy.
Man, I'm starting to think Paul was onto something. This country music just isn't too bad. Maybe we'll make it a little bit more current. I'm going to keep the show going. Going to have a little bit more country in the near future. I hope you like it. Paul really opened my eyes. That's Paul Kritz, a huge country fan. Saw him a couple days ago. He had a little rhinestone jacket on and some pointy boots and everything. So who knew?
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. We're going to keep it going. Lots more country for Paul Kritz. Paul Kritz likes country.
And that was that guy.
Yeah, God, he sounds great.
I still have a lot of your old shows back there. We're gonna start doing in the middle of the night classic K-Fug and rebroadcast some old shows.
Be kind, Paul.
I know, I will. I didn't play the Three Canadians, which I also still have.
I've heard something. Are we out of time yet?
We are out of time.
Okay.
Hey, thanks to Coach Eric Apperson for coming in today and talking to us about the team and how the first year as sheriff of Del Norte County has gone and what's happening, challenges and such, and how great his life is, and then of course
blah blah
how fabulous
blah,
he is
blah.
and
That's
wonderful
fantastic.
and amazing.
Thank you.
Oh
Come
my
talk to us anytime you have the
anytime.
Seriously,
I absolutely love it.
All right. Hey, Sean Waddell's up next. It is 11 minutes to 1. We're going to play a Casey Musgraves tune here, and then we'll be back on Small Town Talk. KFUG 101.1 FM online, kfugradio.org.